Hello guys, my name is Kevin and welcome once again to a new video in which I'll talk about how to play the game as the underdog. By the way, I took this idea from one of my fans which, well, he requested it, so I did not really take his idea away from him for this video, I'm more or less just fulfilling his request. Either way, we have all been at that one point, just casually matching up and boom, you see your name at the absolute bottom of the screen. You find it quite a bit intriguing once you realize that it's not in fact a school test to which you are kinda used. So you start investigating this betrayal only to find out there's the Ruskies.
Like this desert rain frog. Squeaking viral sensation.
I actually like the music in the background, so let me keep it down here. Or maybe up here. Well, back to what I was talking about. You find yourself being the bottom tier.
Sounds like a joke.
Fuck, this is more annoying than I thought it would be. You find yourself being the bottom tier in your match, so what you gonna do? Right to wargaming? Cry? Squad jak amerykański spy? You gotta learn how to deal with that, and mainly be happy about the fact that you won't ever see something like this. Seriously, imagine how tough it must have been grinding the mouse 4 years ago. Hell, I personally left the game for about 3 months just because I was so tired from trying to grind out the mouse, which on top of that was kinda useless. Anyways, let's start this quote-unquote list as more of a guide with the more sensible things to do, which I suppose you are all aware of, unless you're insane. Remember, in this game you won't profit from being insane the same way as these tentacle fucks. So though, those things are, for example, knowing that you actually are an underdog. You may know this by comparing your penetration to the other tanks at your own tier. I'm just pointing this out as you can be an underdog even if you play in a 1-tier match, not just from being the bottom tier. T44 or Caravan are great examples of what I'm talking about. And second, if you already know that your tank is an underdog, never ever duel enemies head on, unless you know that their tanks are no better than yours, in which case...
Oh kurwa!
Sorry, I had to, I kinda ran out of jokes. But now, to the things some of you most likely do not know, such as, why are my nipples so hairy? I'd rather not talk about that. Firstly, you gotta understand that you are not the killer over here. You are nothing more than support. Similarly to the light tanks, you should stick with groups of teammates. Well, that technically is not all that light tanky, but I'll get to that later. Light tanks actually prefer moving alone to reach the front bushes of a map instead of moving with a group, so you know they can spot for their team. But they can afford doing so because they are most likely much faster than you are in your underdog tank. You on the other hand have to stick with groups of teammates which actually can penetrate your opponents, so you will be useful at least for something. Probably as a meat shield, I don't know. Just kidding. You'll be detracking. Most of your allies will only target the whole armor on the enemy tanks, you know, to deal damage, but they'll most likely not even try to detrack them. This may possibly save the opponent, because if they would have detracked the opponent instead of just plainly shooting him to the whole armor, he might have received much more than one single shot. Now, detracking is a process during which you shoot down the enemy's tracks by shooting either the front or rear wheels, not the thing in between. This immobilizes them in the middle of your team's sides, and as long as those dingle-dongs at your team are smart enough to shoot at a standing target, you'll earn 50% of the experience and credits. Well, if they would even try to shoot them. Come on, the enemy's right over there. Hello, he's over there, standing. Well, to increase the chances of your team actually doing something apart from jerking off at the back of the map, shit talking about how useless their teams are, try to ping the enemy tank or ping the map. Mark them by pressing your T while aiming directly at them. Not that it always helps, but it will increase the chances of this miracle happening nonetheless. But now to the best thing about the detracking and the reason why am I pointing it out so much to you. You don't really have to penetrate the enemy tank in order to, well, detrack them. All you have to do is penetrate those 20mm of track armor and they are detracked. Well, not always. Usually the tracks got a certain amount of hit points, so yeah, it is not exactly guaranteed that you will detrack your opponent upon shooting them once. It is gonna be quite common that you will have to hit them twice, even thrice, in order to detrack them once. Did you know? Majority of the tanks with low penetration got low caliber as well, which is actually the cause of it. The low caliber, however, allows you to reload far faster than the other tanks thanks to the lowered weight of the shells, but once again, this has its bad side as well. Smaller shells cause less of both hit point damage and module damage to the enemy. So yeah, you probably won't be capable of detracking them all that often, not to mention that they can fix their tracks every 90 seconds. So how are you going to fight that? Potatoes. Double tap that free key like you have never before. As soon as you see a target you cannot penetrate, load into high explosives. They not only cause more module damage than your standard AP shells, but they can cause that module damage without needing to penetrate the target or the module. So you can fire at the enemy regardless of their angling. This may as well knock out the enemy's crew members. Got no idea how that works, but hey, it's an arcade shooter. Logic doesn't really apply to it, alright?
There's a good bird.
Yep, I ran out of jokes again, but you must accept the fact that it was freaking hilarious. Now back to where I was. Oh, detracking and high explosives. Well, firstly, if you do everything correctly, you will earn 50% of all the credits and experience for the damaged target, which is pretty damn fine. And secondarily, while loading in those high explosives, please don't overdo it. Always load in less high explosives than armor piercing. Why? Well, that's my third point. Know your enemy's weak spots. Yeah, that's kind of a hard thing to know, because there are so many possible weak spots that the enemy tank may have, but remember this for pretty much every single tank. Cupolas, weak spots. Machine gun ports, weak spots. Basically any abnormality that the enemy's tank might have is a weak spot. And lastly, if they got a bit too much flat space around their gun, it's a weak spot once again. Or gunman led, in which case run! These weak spots that not every single tank has can be easily penetrated using your AP rounds, or APCR. HE and heat is nearly completely useless against those, so yeah, you will need some AP rounds as well, not just to prove that you are not a newbie, but sadly this one weak spot knowledge is more of a side thing to know. As I said, you will be mainly focusing on detracking the opponents, not on damaging them, so you will most of the time be too busy with detracking them and you won't really have the time to aim at their weak spots, and plus to that, you get a pretty meh accuracy. Most of the underdogs got a pretty meh accuracy, which won't really allow you to hit those weak spots reliably. Even if you know them well, you just may not hit them at all. I just wanted to point out this whole thing because you will need to know it, even if you are not exactly playing an underdog or you are the last person alive in your team. Good luck with that. But still, this knowledge will prove to be useful from time to time. Oh, and lastly, I forgot to mention one enormous weak spot that is on nearly every single tank. I underlined it nearly in that sentence. But now to the weak spot. The weak spot is the roof armor and the belly armor. So for example, the top of the turret, engine deck, or simply the lowest actually armored part of a tank, so not tracks. They are only rarely somehow fake, and you can quite commonly penetrate them even with high explosives, which is fantastic. Wouldn't bet on that though. So if you are above or underneath the enemy, which doesn't happen all that often, you can rather safely shoot them and be sure about penetrating them with your AP round. Just take care and hope that nobody is actually aiming at you. However, if you really want to penetrate the enemy tank, you must go around it. That's actually my fourth tip. I know I should have been talking about this far sooner in this video, but, well, in every single underdog game, if you see this, I can assure you that you won't penetrate it. So if you really want to deal some damage, which is quite normal since you can always rely on your teammates, you have to go around them. You have to play similar to those flanking mediums and flanking, I don't know, heavies sometimes, in order to reach the juicy side and rear armor, which is just pleasure to penetrate. But you most likely knew this long ago, so I'll give you one more tip. Do not go behind the enemy. The best thing you can do is stand beside of the enemy and shoot this far. Yes, still detracking, however now the armor angle is none. You got flat armor facing you and that is almost a guaranteed penetration on top of a regular detracking. So now you can do some milking and get a plenty of both regular and assistance damage. Going behind the enemy can be still quite useful as you may destroy the enemy's engine, but once again not every single tank is like that. Some may have a pretty weird engine placement such as the E100 that is its engine in the front part of a tank. Simply shoot this, not this, but this. And now to my most likely last tip. Hide. Yeah, I pretty much said that you should be aggressive by, you know, flanking the enemies, but look at this. You may win from time to time, but most of the time your flank will be either equally matched or even losing. If any of that happens, you simply cannot get behind the enemy lines in order to, well, penetrate them because you will be shot at. So to still somehow carry your own weight, you have got to hide and simply wait for the enemies you may actually penetrate. You can obviously keep detracking your opponents, I haven't said that you shouldn't. But be warned, heavy tanks suck at hiding. They got absolutely zero ammo and zero mobility. Once you get hit, you will die within the upcoming probably 5 seconds or 6 seconds. So stick to the town and detracking instead if you are playing a heavy tank. But if you are playing a medium tank or pretty much anything that is fast and has some camo, you can safely hide inside of a bush and shoot at opponents, detracking them. Or, well, damaging them in some cases, such as the guy you might see on the screen right now. Oh, and while we are still talking about, you know, hiding away in bushes, I should mention this. If you are going to fire, your camouflage is going to drop to pretty much absolute zero. So if the enemy is pretty much inside of this circle, it's very likely that he is going to spot you. So in order to prevent that, you will have to start pulling behind the bush whenever you want to fire. How much? You'll have to pull far enough behind the bush for the bush to become non-transparent. Once the bush becomes non-transparent, you can safely shoot through it without ever having to worry that you will get spotted. However, one thing that I should mention is that you won't be capable of spotting the enemy behind the bush, and it will be kinda clunky to do that because you won't really see the enemy tank, you will only see the outline of it. However, you won't get spotted, so always do this if the enemy is inside of this circle. And now to the last point, which is probably the most important one. Forget everything that I've just said and load in the premium rounds, alright? Anyway, this is gonna be the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a like. If you did not, please give it a dislike. But if you kind of felt that this video was just a tiny bit stretched out, I can explain it rather simply. And that is, well, the whole base of this video, the whole idea for this video was kinda short-lived. I actually made the original script for this video and it was only 3 minutes long. So yeah, this entire video could be done within 3 minutes and I did not need to stretch it out to be, well, 10 minutes long. But guess what? YouTube again is slightly bit lowering my subs because I did not make enough videos where they can put free ads into. In other words, I do not make enough 10-minute long videos per week. So yeah, I simply had to make it this long. Hope you don't mind that and hope that I'll see you next time. Bye!